Hi all, I have a very interesting game of Bobby Fischer to show you. He was playing against his very good friend William Lombardy. This was played in New York 1960. So Lombardy was to become Fischer's second in the 1972 World Championship match. A very, very strong player in his own right. E4 from Lombardy, C5 as Sicilian defence, knight f3, d6, d4, pretty standard so far. Knight f6, but here we get a very interesting move, f3. So usually white would play knight c3 to defend this. This has a certain upside, which we now see that c4 is possible. The Maroczy bind is set up, binding against black's d5 and often b5 breaks. But nevertheless, black, if in a rebellious mood, can try for these pawn breaks in any case to try and liberate the position. e6, knight c3, bishop e7, bishop e3, black castles, knight c2. Now maybe this is a little bit of a luxury move. Perhaps white should have factored in d5 and considered something like queen c2 instead, because now black actually dares liberate the position with d5. So this kind of pawn sacrifice Kasparov has used in much later years against Karpov. There's a famous octopus knight game which you must see. It's a must see. So this is a liberating pawn move. Let's see what happens. C takes d5, e takes, and white wins a pawn. You might ask what the compensation is here. Well, if e takes d, that breaks up the pawn structure and the e file might be useful. White took with the queen. Black avoids the exchange of queens and now has a tempo gaining target. That queen moves to b5 in advance of bishop e6, it seems. Bishop d7, maybe on a6, maybe queen b6 was possible. So bishop d7 threatens things like knight b4 and knight d4 hitting the queen. We see rook c1 as though trying to virtually pin this knight. Now Fischer chooses though to play knight b4, so discovering an attack on the queen. We see knight takes b4. This is a very critical juncture where black is going to win the exchange after knight takes b4, albeit for a pawn. But let's look at the options. Where would the queen go here? On queen e2, for example, knight takes a2, and if we have this sequence, this is going to be quite good for black. So that's not entirely palatable to play queen e2. This weird looking queen c4, you might think it's a little bit weird looking, but queen a5 avoids the queen's coming off, and this is quite a nasty move to me, even if it goes into a self pin. Rook fc8, and this is very dangerous for white. And the other option, let's see, so after knight b4, I think we've actually covered the main options. White just decided to sacrifice the exchange actually. So knight takes b4, and we have this forcing move, queen takes c1 check, and bishop takes b5. Now white prefers not to allow bishop takes b4 check here and hits this bishop. So two bishops are hanging here. If bishop takes b5, bishop takes b4 check, this position is quite nice for black. It's nice in any case, but knight d5 is an attempted improvement. Bishop check though, g3, and now taking on f1. White doesn't want to damage his pawn structure, so it takes this bishop, and this bishop goes all the way back. It looks as though this knight's quite impressive, and as if white might have some compensation for being exchanged down. He does have one pawn at the moment. Bishop d2, trying to get maybe to a good looking position on c3. Rook c8, bishop c3. That is indeed the case. So f5. This is very interesting. By doing f5, it's encouraging the pawn to go forward and trying to blockade on the light squares later. This is potentially dangerous. But let's see, rook c5, immediate tempo gaining. And now bishop a5. So threatening potentially, well, bishop takes and then rook c1 check, or rook takes even, giving back the exchange. a3 supporting the knight. Bishop takes b4. A takes. Rook d5. So now Fischer gets that iron grip on the light squares. Blockades on e6. So this is a bit of technique here. The exchange up. Rook c4 restricting things, putting pressure on white. Trying to restrict things. Rook e1. And this is where, very interesting choice by Fischer to simplify. Can you guess if I give you 5 seconds? I've given you a big clue there. Okay, Fischer gives back the exchange. Rook takes c3 check. Takes this pawn on e5 and has well calculated this endgame, this king and pawn ending. His king is slightly more aggressive and it's enough to have a winning position here. This constitutes a winning position. h5, b6, king c2, g5, h6, and f4, g4, a5, creating basically a winning outside passed pawn. After b takes, king b2, a4. This passed pawn is enough because now the king can come and scoop up the pawns. And here, William Lombardy resigned. So a fascinating game, the liberating d5 against that Maroczy setup, which is quite rarely used. So Fischer reacted in a very, very sharp manner, which engines even today seem to approve of. The well-timed d5 after black castles make sure that there's no particular downsides like bishop b5s after cd. So very well-timed d5 liberating move by Fischer in this game, and winning the exchange for opponent, and fine technique after giving back the exchange to transition into a winning king and pawn ending. So a very, very instructive game from many angles. Hope you enjoyed it. Comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks very much.